Hey everyone, Marissa here, and welcome to a very special video. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different because I want to talk to you about mail-in voting. Now, if you're watching this video, I assume you're already aware that 2020 is an election year, and a very strange election year at that, mainly because of the current COVID-19 pandemic. Now, traditionally, a lot of people will just go to a polling location in order to cast their vote, but because of the pandemic, a lot of us are looking for alternate ways, safer ways to cast our vote. I personally am based in California, where I have actually been voting by mail the entirety of my registered adult life. So to me, voting by mail is not a new concept. It's not something strange or foreign at all, but it occurred to me the other day that there are probably a lot of voters around the country right now who are casting mail-in ballots for the very first time. I, of course, am not claiming to be a voting expert or an expert on voting by mail in particular, but I did notice when doing research on video resources for voting by mail, most of the videos out there are put out by either political organizations or news organizations, and I didn't really see anything from one voter speaking to other voters. So I thought I would just make this video to kind of talk you through my process for voting by mail, talk you through some of the resources that are available to you, and hopefully just kind of provide a little insight into what it would look like if you were to take advantage of voting by mail in the 2020 election. And I do have several resources that I'm going to be linking in the description box below. So please, 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 if you do nothing else with this video, if this is where you stop watching, at least check out the description box for some of those resources. The first resource I want to mention before I lose any of you is vote.org. Now, vote.org is a fantastic resource for voters across the country, no matter which state you live in. Through vote.org, you can check your voter registration and register if that is not something you have gotten to already. You can request a mail-in ballot and locate your polling place or ballot drop-off. The other thing you can do on vote.org, which is just as important as voting, is you can fill out the 2020 census. If you have not already, hopefully you have. The census is a critical tool to help determine the resources that your state and local communities are going to be getting going forward until the next census. So if you have not done it yet, I would really, really ask that you do. It's about a handful of questions. It takes no more than 5 to 10 minutes, and it really helps both you and your community out. So definitely check out vote.org down in the description box below. Again, if you do nothing else with the information in this video. Hey everyone, quick update from editing me. In the 48 hours since I first filmed this video, there was, as expected, an update to the census deadline. The new deadline to get your census responses in is 11:59 p.m. on Thursday, the 15th of October. So if you have not filled out the 2020 census yet, please consider going to the link in the description box below to vote.org, where you can also find a link to the census. Okay, now let's get into actually voting by mail. And this is going to seem a little California specific because that's what I've got in front of me here. But I think all voters can, again, glean something from this, hopefully. So here in California, we receive 3 different pieces of voting related mail. The first thing that you typically get is the official voter information guide. Now this has all of the propositions listed out in kind of like a summary form, but then they also typically have the actual text of some of the propositions in the back here. So if you like legalese, if you like reading through potential California code sections, you can do so if you really want. I will typically scan through this to see primarily who has either backed a proposition or opposed it, to see if they have any funding information. But typically speaking, when it comes to understanding propositions, I personally like relying on local news sources. So here in Orange County, LA area, we have a great resource in KPCC. That's our local public radio station. They do some fantastic voter guides each season, which really helps to kind of break down and give like a pro-con kind of breakdown for the individual propositions. So if you are slightly confused by the information in here, I would highly recommend going to local news sources, whether that is a local newspaper or radio station or television station even. I just find that those local sources typically have a really great breakdown of the propositions available to you on your ballot. Now, the next thing that typically comes in the mail, at least here in California, is this sample ballot and voter information guide. This has, probably most importantly, a sample ballot in the back. You basically get a practice ballot. So what I typically do is I I do all of my research, read through all of the information that's provided to me, and then I actually go in and I fill it out as if I was filling out my real ballot. That way, when I get my official ballot in the mail, I'm already ready. I don't have to second guess myself. And because you typically can't change your answer once you've bubbled something in, I think it's really great to kind of do a run through, if you will. Now, you might be wondering how this voter information guide is different than the bigger voter information guide. This has a lot more like location-based information. So this one has Dropbox locations. This one has vote center locations. It has hours and contact information if you have further questions. The other thing I will note is that they have a lot of different like language resources in case you are a multilingual voter, or in case, say, your parents maybe don't English wasn't their first language and it's helpful for them to receive this information in another language. They have resources and ways to get more resources in their required language in this guide. I also really typically rely on this for your local races. So whether those are for school board, for your district representative, whether those are for sheriffs or judges, they typically will be able to provide like a short paragraph, either like a bio or kind of their like mini stump speech paragraph, if you will. They typically include that in this smaller voter guide. They don't always have a paragraph for each candidate. It's kind of on the candidate's discretion to actually submit something. But if the candidate has submitted something, you at least get to kind of see how they have framed themselves. And then lastly, and most importantly, you should also receive your official vote by mail ballot. Now in California this year, they started sending out ballots, I think on the 5th of October. So if you have not yet received your vote by mail ballot, it is coming. And this year, I'm not sure if they did it before, but this year for sure, California is mailing out vote by mail ballots to every registered voter in California. So regardless of whether you requested one or not, you should be receiving one in the mail. Now, you don't have to use it. If you feel comfortable going into a polling station, I would encourage you to do so. However, if you do feel like you would rather fill a ballot out and either drop it off in the mail, drop it at a Dropbox, or take it to a polling station on election day, just know that you are going to have that option, at least here in California. I think it's pretty obvious that this is something important because it is bright orange. Here it says official vote by mail ballot. It says it again here, and they provide you with instructions. My recommendation would be read all of the instructions, read them like they're fine print, because I guess technically they are. They provide contact information in case you have questions or you need help. They also list out the different options for returning your ballot. Now in California, we can mail them in. They just have to be postmarked no later than election day. So this year that would be November 3rd. You can also drop them off at an official ballot drop box, and you can actually still drop them off on election day at a drop box. They just have to be in by 8 p.m. Then lastly, you can also drop off your ballot at any active polling location. However, I would really encourage everyone this year to try and vote early if you can, simply because there are going to be a lot of mail-in ballots, more than usual, and we want to, eliminate any additional strain, any unnecessary strain on the what do you call that, on the counting process. So if we can get them in early, that's probably a good thing. Now let's actually open this up, because I think it would be, helpful for people to see what an actual ballot looks like. And while I do that, I want to mention something related to ballot selfies. It's basically the phenomenon of people taking pictures either with their completed vote by mail ballots or in the voting booth with their filled out ballot, kind of as like proof that you voted, which is great. Everyone should vote. Here in the state of California, as I understand it, it is not illegal to take a picture with your completed ballot. However, that is not universally true across the country. So what I would recommend instead, rather than risking it and taking a picture with your completed ballot, I would just put on your I voted sticker and take a selfie that way. So when you open up your ballot, you are going to receive the ballot itself, which is typically quite long. So make sure if you have 2 pages, why don't you open it up, take a look at how many pages there are, and make sure that when you put it back in your return envelope, that there are still the same number of pages. You don't want to accidentally leave one out. I got, again, another reminder of how I can return my ballot. So they really want you to know that you have a lot of different return options. I also received kind of a little instruction list. Now, what I would recommend is that you take 5 minutes, make sure you don't have kids asking you to do something else, make sure you're not trying to do 3 other things at once. Sit down and read through this entire list. So they're gonna tell you how you can mark your ballot. Typically on the back, they will actually show you the best way to do that. So in my case, they want you to completely use a blue or black pen, no pencil. They want you to completely fill in the available square. They don't want you to cross anything out. They don't want you to write on it. They just want you to fill in the complete square with black or blue pen. The only place where you are actually going to want to write words on your ballot is in any write-in candidate opportunity. Other than that, you should be doing nothing other than filling in a very, very dark, very clear bubble. Going back to the instructions here, they tell you how to mark your ballot. They tell you how to seal your envelope. Now, here in California, we just have the one return envelope, but if you are in states like, I believe, Pennsylvania, you also have a secondary envelope that the ballot goes in first. I think it's called your privacy envelope. That then goes in the larger return envelope. So definitely go down to vote.org, check out the requirements for your state, and again, read the instructions that come with your ballot. You don't want to accidentally send in a incomplete ballot or a ballot missing a privacy envelope and risk your vote not counting. Now, this next one here is very important, and that is instructions on how to sign your ballot. So here they're saying date and sign your name on the back of the envelope in ink. So I would just say use the same pen that you've been using to mark your ballot, and then print your name and residential address. Now, what they're referring to is signing your name on the back of the return envelope. Now, you're gonna do that down here. Again, read your instructions. They've got a red arrow. They're trying to make it as obvious for you as possible. When it comes to your signature, you want to make sure that you're using the correct signature as well. And I say that as somebody who I registered when filling out my license information at the DMV, and for some reason signed my name differently than I do in my everyday life. So what I typically do will pull out my driver's license and actually reference the signature that I use there to make sure that I'm using the correct signature, so that when they match my signature to whatever they have on file, it's accurate, the same, and they're not going to think that it's a fraudulent signature. The other section I wanted to note, since we're looking at the back of this return envelope, is this little section here. Up here it says, I am unable to return my ballot and I hereby authorize. Now this you can use if for some reason you cannot personally drop off your mail-in ballot yourself. The rest of the instructions here are a tad bit repetitive. They again list all of the different ways that you can return your ballot in case you forgot already from the other 3 times they told you. Then down in the additional information section, here we get a number that we can call in case we make an error on the ballot and we need to or would like to change something. You can call that. It again gives you the deadline for postmarking and returning your ballot. And then you can request more information if you would like it. Then lastly, and probably most fun, we also get the little I voted sticker. So definitely don't feel like you miss out if you don't go to the polls. You will still get a sticker and you can still wear it proudly all day, or like me, you can decorate your planner with it, you know. Do what you like. So that is everything you get inside a vote by mail ballot, and hopefully that was helpful for you. I know that as a new voter, I really appreciated my parents sitting down with me and just kind of going through everything and talking through what exactly I was looking at. So hopefully that was equally as helpful for you all. Okay, that was a lot of information, but Californians, if you're still with me, I still have some specific resources for you to check out, which again will be linked in the description box below. The first thing I want to mention is something that hopefully everyone already knows about, and that is that in California, we actually have the option for same-day voter registration. Now, again, I would not recommend that you wait until you get to a polling location to actually fill out your voter registration packet. I really think it's important this year, especially to get our ballots in as early as possible. However, if you absolutely need to register at a polling location, you have that option. Another link I will be leaving below is to the California Secretary of State's website. They have created kind of a one and done voter resource page where they have links to the Voter Bill of Rights, to request a mail-in ballot, to find your polling location, and a lot of different resources. So definitely check that out. I'm also going to be pulling out the Voter Bill of Rights and a page where you can find your local polling location or drop box, because I think those are particularly important. Hey folks, one more update from Editing Me, which is in regards to California ballot drop boxes. Now you want to make sure that you're taking your ballot to an official drop box. And the reason I say this is that over the past couple of days, since I filmed the video, we have learned that there are several unofficial drop boxes that have been kind of dispersed throughout California that look very similar to official ballot drop boxes, but are not official boxes secured and monitored by election officials. Please make sure that you're using an official Dropbox, and you can do this by going to the Dropbox locator link in the description box below. That will take you to the Secretary of State's website where they have listed all official Dropbox locations. Don't just pull up to any old Dropbox, even if it looks official. Make sure that you have verified the location of that Dropbox on the Secretary of State's website. Pro tip, make sure you're double checking your Dropbox location. Also here in California, and I think in a majority of states across the country, they have launched a kind of track my ballot feature on their website where you can basically sign up for progress notifications about your ballot, so you can see when it's been scanned in by the mail, when it's been received by a voting center, and I just think for those of us who are maybe feeling a little bit like they're concerned about whether their ballot will actually get to where it needs to go, this is a way to kind of take some of that stress off of your mind. And then lastly, I'm going to be providing a link to the 2020 Cal Matters voter guide. This is a fantastic voter guide for all things California election related. They break down the propositions, the congressional races, the Senate races, and any of the assembly races. So if you, like me, tend to be a little bit less informed when it comes to local politics, I find that this is a really, really great resource, and it's very clearly written. So hopefully it's something that we can all understand. All right, so that is everything that I have to share with you today about voting by mail. Hopefully this was helpful, especially for those of you who have never voted by mail before. And if you know anyone in your life who is a little bit unclear on the vote by mail process, please consider sharing this video with them, or at least sharing some of the resources that I have provided down below. Again, please consider checking out the resources linked down below, as this video is not intended to be a complete guide to voting by mail, but simply some insights from one voter to another. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you are planning to vote this year. Hopefully you have your plan in place, and thank you very much for participating in your democracy.